5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Deborah Hinds, welcome. I Never Knew TV.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I want to talk about the low carb diets. I hear some people say low carb diets are the best thing ever. Then I hear other people say low carb diets are foolish and unhealthy, right? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts about low carb diets?
Low carb diets are only for short term gains. No one ever can sustain a low carb diet for a long period of time. And usually the weight loss that comes with a low carb diet, it's only around for maybe a month. And then the weight comes back on. And that's because you're getting rid of the stored carbohydrate, which has glycogen, which has all the water on it. So it's really water weight that people are losing. And then it comes back on. And a lot of times it comes back worse than when you first lost it. And also because carbs are the primary source of energy for our body, for our cells. Is the only source of energy for your brain and is the only source of energy for your blood. Two very important types of cells, right? So if you're not getting a sufficient amount of carbs, then a lot of people, they experience brain fog and a lot of like cognitive issues because they aren't getting that primary source of energy. So if you don't have that energy, your cell's not working, your body's not doing what it's doing. And that's why I, for one, do not recommend it because it's not long term. And you want to primarily have, and I don't even like to say diet, but you want a nutrition regimen that's going to sustain over time. And then there's no need for these short term gains, as you say, because you'll end up gaining more than you lost the first time.
What would be a sustainable approach to weight loss?
It would be first to kind of take stock of your level of activity. Like, how active are you? If you aren't as active, meaning you're mostly sitting around, there's not much walking, and if you don't exercise, then you don't require, your body doesn't require a lot of calories, right? Calories is the source of energy. Like, you're burning what you take, so your caloric intake. So if you're taking in a lot of calories and you aren't burning them, then that leads to stored carbs, which leads to stored fat. So first, you got to say, how much am I moving? And then if you aren't moving that much, you really do want to start moving, but then you shouldn't be eating that much. I think a lot, and I only will focus on Americans because that's where we are, that's where I am. So I only know about our experience. But many Americans lead sedentary lifestyles. We aren't working out on farms. We're not working in factories. It's not a lot of manual labor that requires movement. And if many people aren't working out, that's why we have to work out, because unlike the days of old when there was a lot of movement, a lot of manual labor, we aren't expending a lot of calories. So if you aren't expending a lot of calories, you're not going to burn any calories and you're going to store those calories. And then that transfers to adipose tissue, the fat. And so if you are not eating, if you're not moving a lot, you shouldn't be eating a lot. Like, they tell you 3 meals a day. A lot of people probably don't even need to be eating 3 meals a day. And a lot in America, we have like these crazy portion sizes. And folks need to be cognizant of what their meal looks like the portion size of your meal. They say it shouldn't be larger than your fists because your stomach isn't as large as your fists. So I think it's really being more cognizant of what you're putting in and your level of activity. And you just want a very varied, nutrient-dense diet. You want to see color, and you want carbs, but you want those like complex, whole carbs. And you want some protein and you want some fats, like the healthier fats, like your omega-3s, unsaturated fats. But it really is math, right? It's your caloric intake and how much you're expending. If you're not moving a lot, you don't need to take in a lot. It's really that simple.
For those watching, could you share with them some healthy carbs?
Healthy carbs, whole grains. You want to focus on the whole grains. And when we say whole grains, it's when it usually comes in the form of like whole wheat, quinoa, brown rice, barley, couscous, farro, right? And they're called wholes because they're minimally processed, and you're not removing the nutrient rich layers. So you have the bran, which is the outer layer, right? You have the endoderm, and then you have the germ. And those are where a lot of your B vitamins, right? And I think later we'll talk about the micronutrients, but B vitamins are very important in supporting metabolism. So that's when the digested foods that your body takes, when it takes it and then converts it to energy so that your body can do what it needs to do. Muscles can contract, right? And so that's where a lot of the B vitamins, I forget how many, but there's more than 5 B vitamins, and those are all contained in the whole grains. And when you have like white rice, bleached bread, those 3 outer, like more nutrient layers of the whole grain is removed. That's why it's no longer whole. So any of those grains, even whole wheat, if you want to have bread, have a whole wheat bread because it has all of those nutritious layers that contains the B vitamins and also the minerals. It has like those minerals that are important for just general function of your body and also the structure, like the structure of your bones, the structure of your muscles. So you really want to, go towards the brown rice because that's something most people eat, right? If you're going to eat rice, eat the brown rice, quinoa, barley, those type of things. And just if you just have whole wheat bread, toast with some peanut butter, that's actually a complementary protein. So that's like all your essential amino acids just with that whole wheat bread and then that peanut butter.
There's a lot of criticism about black women in scientific journals and online about their struggles with obesity, right? When we did our live prior to Groundings with our brothers and sisters, you spoke about, you said it's irresponsible to blame black women for their struggles with obesity, right? Could you elaborate more on that?
Sure. A lot of the focus with many people, like with many folks who are struggling with obesity or just being like overweight in general, a lot of the focus, the onus is put on the individual, like behaviors. Like you're not choosing the proper food. You're not choosing to work out, right? So you're just focusing on the individual factor, which really just accounts for a very small percentage of the contribution to someone's health journey. It's more to that, like our behaviors are influenced by a lot, both intrinsic, like those factors that we control, and extrinsic. Those are those external factors that actually play a huge role on our behaviors, what we decide. It's like your culture, your social norms and values, where you grew up, that dictate some of your behavior choices. And then there's what sectors of influence that controls a lot. It not only controls what the kind of decisions you make, but it controls policies, it controls like where you live. And that's another factor, environmental settings, where you live, where you work, where you learn, where you play. That also plays important pieces in your health.
I wanted to add to a family structure and support system because unfortunately there is a high number of single mothers within our culture, and I don't see, if you don't have help, the health part, not saying it can't happen, but it seems to be very difficult when you don't have support to go off and do certain things and get a little time to yourself.
Right. Because personally, like, what if I didn't have my partner to watch the child when I need to go and work out? Like, most people don't have that. And if you're working several jobs, where do you find time to exercise? And especially if your job doesn't require a lot of movement and you're just like sitting at a desk or you're driving a bus. I don't mean to put transit workers out there, but I think if someone really looked into it, they'll see high rates of obesity amongst like transit workers. And those type of like jobs where there isn't movement, like what do you expect? And so if you're working multiple jobs and jobs where there's no movement, like how can you sustain like doable or the level of fitness that you need in order to maintain a healthy body weight. That's impossible. And then if you live in an area where there's little to no access to healthy foods, then what are you going to do? Like, what is your nutrition going to look like? And if you don't have time, many people don't have time. Like, if you're working hours and hours, where's the time to prepare wholesome meals? And all of that is a factor of your environmental setting, is a factor of like culture and your social norms. It's a factor of social influences, policies that like impact your access to jobs, your income level, your education level, all that goes into like if you don't have like a higher education level, what kind of jobs are you going to get? You're more prone to get those type of jobs where you're working multiple hours or you're doing some job where there's low level of movement. So again, it's outside of just to say somebody's behavior. It's removing all the other larger factors that play a more important role in our decisions and in our health.
And listening to you talk, I'm thinking about a deeper conversation we need to have as a culture in regards to family planning. I think if we were more proactive in regards to that approach and thinking about how that impacts us and making sure we have a support system within reason. I know things happen. Because when I'm listening to you talk, I'm hearing how family planning plays a big role on our health. Because if you're by yourself, it seems like it's much harder to maintain. I'm not saying it's impossible. People get all excited. Not saying it's impossible, but it seems more difficult when you don't have a certain level of support.
It is more difficult. It isn't impossible, but it's very difficult. And then what effect does that have on your mental health? And mental health is connected to physical health. I don't know why people treat it as separate, because our brains are connected to the rest of our bodies. That's actually the command center. So if our mental health is impacted, then how do we expect our physical health? And I think the stress of having to possibly work multiple jobs, to be the sole provider for not only yourself, but for your kids, like, that's too much. And I know people like to be super women, but I want to know the mental state of these super women. Like, there is some sacrifice that happens. There's a sacrifice to their mental health and there's a sacrifice to their physical health. And again, it's not impossible, but why put yourself in that position? And it's not good for the kids. It's not good for the kids because then they learn behaviors, right? If they are not seeing their parent working out or eating healthy, then they're more likely to continue those habits. And so this is a new generation with those unhealthy behaviors.
Learn behaviors.
Learn behaviors.
Micros and macros are a key part of having a healthy lifestyle. I have two questions, but the first question is, can you please explain what a micro and macro is?
Yeah. So macronutrients, and the key parts of it is macro, micro. So macro are those nutrients that our body, macro and micronutrients are those like food component substances that the body does not make. So that's why we got to take it in. That's why we eat, because our bodies cannot make it. And macro means we need it in large amounts. So we're talking like grams. And then for micro, that means we need it in smaller doses. So the macronutrients, they include carbohydrates, protein, and fats. The micronutrients are the vitamins and minerals. And you need those in like micrograms, maybe milligrams, but it's not as much as you need the macronutrients. So that's really, and there's a whole list of vitamins and minerals. You got the A's, the B, well, it's just one A. You got the B's, several B's, D, E, K, and then choline. Those are the vitamins. And then you have the minerals. A lot of times those are found in the soil. You have calcium, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, copper, zinc, selenium, iron. All of those are minerals, and you need those in trace amounts compared to the macros.
And what is a realistic approach for a person who's trying to get a sufficient amount of macros and micros?
Some people do the what is it, counting the macros. I don't think that's realistic, right? But you just look at some guidance is like look at your plate. A large proportion of your plate should be a carb, right? So if you want to go by colors, it's usually like tannish colors, right? The grains. And then that's next followed by a protein. So that's like a little smaller portion. If you eat meat, that's your meat. Or if you eat fish, that's your fish. If you don't eat those things, that's like your legumes. That's the beans, the lentils, those type of things. And then you have your fruits and your vegetables. You just kind of, if you can, try and eat a little bit from each group for each meal that you have per day. Because nobody's counting calories unless you like really need to drop some pounds, then you may like be restrictive that way. But just try and have little pieces of each of those food groups for each meal.
And what do you recommend people do if they want to learn more about macros and micros?
I mean, we have our phones, just look it up. And during the health session, I recommended people buy those books that I purchased and read for my certifications. I think anybody can read it. It tells you, it's like a fitness nutrition journal, but you can just look up general nutrients. So you can just type in macronutrients and you'll get everything. You'll get the list of the macronutrients and the foods that it comes in, and even the vitamins.
I know people work out, right? And I'm not saying all people, but what I've noticed is as a man that works out and has been in the gym, it seems that unfortunately many people work out not necessarily for health reasons, but for the aesthetics in regards to like looking a certain way, right? For women now, since you are our sister, I want you to talk on behalf of the sisters. Some sisters not into lifting weights, right? They're kind of anti-weights.
Yeah.
Some sisters lift weights. I think we need more women lifting weights, right? Why is it important for women to lift weights?
And I don't lift heavy weights, right? And you don't even need to lift heavy weights. It's more that resistance training. So you can do that with 10 pounds, 12-pound weights. You can do it with a resistance band, resistant tube. Both of those things you can get from, not Dollar Tree, Five Below. That's really what you need. And you can use your own body weight. But it's really important to do that resistance training and like resistance strength and endurance. It's important to do those because you need strong muscles. It really is to build up your muscles because the muscles are responsible for moving your bones, right? So if you have strong muscles, then that's less pressure on your bones and your joints. And as I got older, because when I was in my 20s, I did a lot of cardio, a lot of running. And that worked for when I was younger, right? But then as I got older, I noticed that I didn't see the same results that I saw when I was running and younger. And I started to do more resistance training. And then when I was doing my certification for group fitness, and I was reading about the importance of like the resistance training, you actually burn more muscle when you are doing strength endurance training. That's just facts. You burn more muscle than when you're running or doing some sort of cardio. But I preach to every woman that I know, you need to do more resistance training. It's important to have the strong muscles because that supports your bone movement, your skeletal movement. Your bones do not move without muscles. So like and I think about, because I have family members who struggle with like knee issues, arthritis, right? And a lot of times like they haven't worked out their leg muscles. So your quadriceps are important for your leg extension, right? And these are the movements at your joint, the knee. And the same with your hamstring is important for like the flexion, right? All these things. So if you strengthen those muscles, then like I don't have any knee issues. And I attribute that to my muscle training, like targeting those muscles that control my knee action. And even for your all your other joints, for your elbows, your shoulders, your ankles, like you really need to strengthen. In order to strengthen that and to relieve the pressure from it, you need strong muscles. So as you age, because especially for women with menopause, I think like, to prep your body for that period, and then once you get to that period, it's important to have strong muscles, because then there's a lot of women, when they reach menopause, they start to have like osteoporosis. That's when your bones start to become brittle. It's the same as osteomalacia. That's when you get softening of the bones. Osteopenia. That's when your bones are breaking down more than you're actually like developing new bone. Like that's our bodies do that. And so when women age, like the effect of losing like lower levels of the estrogen, progesterone, that really affects your bones. So that's why women should prepare themselves before they even get to that. They want to make sure they're having nutrient-rich diets rich in calcium, diets rich in phosphorus, because those are important for your bones. But if you also are like working out your muscles, then you're going to be in a good spot. Like I do a lot more resistance training and flexibility, and I am so much stronger for it. And I know that will improve my quality as I increase my quantity.
So can you speak about the importance of getting that stretching it?
So the flexibility, that is a key health component. So you have like the 4 different health components, and flexibility. People neglect flexibility. That's range of motion at your joints. So that's your shoulders. I mentioned that before. Your elbows, your knees, your hip. A lot of older people have they have hip issues. They can break their hip if they aren't strong enough. And that's why I think core training is important. People worry about like the 6-pack, but your core is comprised more of that. But if you have a strong core and you're flexible at your joints, you're really reducing your chances of having injury. That's the importance of it, to really minimize and reduce your risk of injury. And as you get older, like if you are flexible at your joints and you're strong, then you're really going to minimize like the chances of you falling or having some sort of injury. That's what it's all about. And I notice at the gym, all the older fit people, they stretch. They don't play with the stretching.
What recommendations would you give for stretching? Is it just stretching on themselves? Is it certain classes? What do you think people should be doing to improve their flexibility?
You can stretch on your own. You can go to YouTube, find tons of stretching videos. Yoga is, if you can take yoga, if you can't go to a class, you can do it on YouTube. If you can go to a class, try taking the class. You can flex. You can stretch, flex on your own. You can look online for different stretching techniques. And it's recommended that you hold each stretch for like 45 seconds, up to 45 seconds. Some of these yoga classes, they have you stretching for like 5-10 minutes. So that's great. So if you can take a yoga class in person or on YouTube, do that. And then hold your stretches for up to 45 seconds. Like the older you are, the longer you should be holding your stretches. And I starting from young, because that means you can develop that routine where you're flexing throughout and you're going to be in good shape. And some people focus on just the cardio piece. Some people focus on the resistance, the strength training, right? But you need all those components, and that really optimizes your health.